Welcome to the channel. This is the new second generation Hyundai Kona, and this is the all-electric EV. Now, when I've seen this car driving past at night, I love how this car looks. Just like all new Hyundais, it has a really distinct design and style. Top 5 things I like about the new Hyundai Kona EV. First of all, look at that light bar. When you're driving, the left and right hand sections during the day light up, but at night time the whole front lights up, which looks amazing. They've got this pixelated design here, and then down here the pixels continue with a design at the bottom grille here, and it very much looks like it belongs part of the family of the Ioniq 5. The third thing I like about this car is this charging port, because this charging port is heated, which means even if it's minus 30 outside and you live in Norway or Sweden or the north of Canada or Alaska, this car will still have a charging port that you can open and will not be frozen shut. I love the way the lights are being done here. We've got them stacked on top of each other with some extra effects here, which very much remind me of the Hyundai Tucson. Not exactly the same, but again, loads of awesome lighting functions on the front, and that is very, very cool. The fourth thing I love is this light bar. I said it's on the front and it's also on the back. It is so, so cool. And the fifth thing that also I love, very much like the Ioniq 5, we have down here with our reflectors, we've got the same pixel design. Pixels are everywhere on the newest Hyundais. We've even got a little light deflector down here, which reminds me of the Ioniq 5N. So check out my video on that. Let's talk size and side of the Kona Electric. So it's 4.3 meters long, 1.8 meters tall, and 1.5 meters wide, which is wider and larger than the previous first generation of the Kona Electric. The first version of the Kona was designed as a combustion engine car, and then the electric version came first. This was designed with the electric version first, and then they've also made a hybrid and also a petrol version, combustion engine version of this car too. Now, in terms of design, you can see these creases which look very similar to the Ioniq 5. It also again reminds me of the Hyundai Tucson. These lights are super, super, super cool, and they go all the way along the rear, just like they go all the way along the front. Let's talk space in the back of this car. So how much room is there? Well, if I just sort of shimmy under here, we have 466 litres of space back here. And by the way, I hit my head the first 2 times I tried that, so well done to me. And there's hooks and tether points back here, plus there's a floor hitch to the top which has space for your charging cables, and you can actually move this down. So right now this is level, we can actually make it so there's more space above it, and you can put down the back seats as well. So plenty spacious, a lot better than the previous generation of Kona, which had a lot smaller space. So this brings it up to par with its competition. The next question you want to ask yourself is there a frunk, and how much space is in said frunk? Well, Hyundai haven't disappointed. Well, Hyundai have tried not to disappoint, because they've given us a frunk, but there isn't that much space. We're talking 27 litres of space in here. There's enough space to put a small bag, maybe you put your charging cables up here. There's a little hook. So there is some space here, but it's not the biggest. But lots of cars I've checked recently have no frunk, so that can't be too bad, can it? Let's talk space in the back of this car. Well, I'm 1.78 meters and I've got space here. Tons of space for my knees, actually, thanks to the way these seats are curved away, which is really cool. Also, you can kind of see through these headrests, and you could poke people. Maybe it's like a shiatsu massage function from the passenger behind, I don't know. And then we have, of course, this is an electric car, so we have our plug back here, which is a 3-pin plug, which you can use to have up to 250 volts at 16 amps. So you can plug in anything into this car and it will charge it or power it just like any other car. This car also has vehicle to load, which lets you plug into the back, into the charging port, sorry, into the front, into the charging port with the adapter. So again, you can plug anything you want into it, whether that's your lights, whether that's your music system, whether that's whatever you want. When you need it, you'll know it. That's all I will say. And there's also 2 USB Type-Cs down here as well, and some netting. And we have got heated seats in the back of this car, which we don't need in the summer, but in the winter would be really, really nice. So a good one for Hyundai to give us that. Thank you very much. In the front here, it definitely looks a lot like other Hyundais, but there are some things which are unique. This little shelf here is pretty cool. You can put stuff on it, I guess. Be careful if you're driving, stuff doesn't fall off, but it's nice to have it. we have these double 12.3-inch digital driver display and the infotainment system, which is wide and beautiful and has widescreen Android Auto and widescreen Apple CarPlay. Are you worried about your online data? Well, I have a solution which means you don't have to worry at all. It's called Aura, who are the sponsor of today's video. Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me, which is a fantastic feature. You may already have one or two of these tools, such as a VPN or a password manager, but Aura has it all in one, and it's fantastic value. Aura is always working to keep you safe in the background so you can concentrate on other things which are more important in life. I value my privacy and I value your privacy. So go to aura.com/techinthecar for a free 2-week trial. What do I think of this Hyundai infotainment system? Well, I think it does everything you can want it to do. You can see it's very responsive. It moves quickly, so we're not chugging along here when I'm trying to do things. If I go into the maps, there's a slight delay. There's a bit of movement here, but you know, that's not at all bad. If we go back out of here, we've got CarPlay or Android Auto, which is full screen, which is exactly what you want, full screen Android Auto, with our maps here, which we can use. Again, really responsive, fast. We can see the weather, forecast today, yesterday. I mean, what more could you want than a system which works and is very easy to break down and see what is going on? And of course, we have our EV settings here, which show us our battery status, our energy consumption. We can go into the further menus here and go along here and change whether the vehicle to load is working, when the charging starts, when the charging starts. And we can also see the battery conditioning and the smart regeneration, which adjusts our deceleration, and plug and charge, which lets you plug it into a charger. And if your car is registered, you then don't have to enter your payment details or tap a card or do anything else, which is really, really useful and cool. And then underneath we have buttons for the climate control, which are really great to have as well. Heated seats, and also we can very, very easily make it driver only, so only the driver area is on, which saves power in an electric car. We've got our drive mode button down here. We've got a heated steering wheel, cooled seats as well, by the way, the button's down here. And we've also got a fantastic 360 camera system. I do like this Hyundai method of having the USBs, and you press a button and it's either charging only or connects to the car for data. And then we've got another USB charger and then wireless charging with the little light which lights up when you put your phone on it, which is always good. And then we've got these pop-out cup holders, which are nice because it means if you don't need a cup holder, you can slot them away and there's lots of space. We've got another big space here, and we've got another little shelf here which comes out, and I can put stuff in there as well. So that's quite cool. So overall, spacious, lots of space. It looks nice in here. Simple infotainment system. The steering wheel, the middle here, there's a sensor which looks into your eyes and tells you off if you're not paying attention. That's a good thing, but I also find it a bit frustrating because sometimes you get told off by the car even when you know what you're doing and you're just trying to change something down here. This doesn't just happen on this car. I guess it's something we need to get used to, unfortunately. The steering wheel itself feels nice. We've got the Hyundai 4 dots on the steering wheel, and we've got these paddles, which I'll talk about when we start driving. This is the digital driver display, 12.3 inches. We can scroll through the menus. You can adjust the background as well so that the dials change. So we're in a sporty dial setting now, but you can adjust it manually if you want to whatever you want. And it's very simple and easy to use. You can see your range, you can see your speed, you can see the speed limit of the area and your consumption. Let's talk about the regenerative braking on this, the Kona electric. Now, all Hyundais have this, but I really want to point it out here. We've got these two paddles. Now, paddles on non-electric cars are the gear changers, and they let you change between the gears on performance cars. Generally, cars that aren't performance cars don't have them. On EVs, they adjust the regen braking, which lets you adjust how aggressively it brakes. So on this car, if we tap on the left hand, I can then move through to the most aggressive type of regen braking, which is basically one pedal driving you saw then. And it says I pedal max in the corner. Now, if I release that down, we go to level 3, which is far less aggressive. Level 2, which when I take my foot off the pedal still brings me to a stop but much slower. Or level 1, which really feels like it could carry on going forever. But if I go back to I pedal, you can see it stops pretty quickly. So that lets you do the one pedal driving on the Kona electric and on other Hyundai cars. Let's talk pricing. So there are 4 trims: Advanced, N-Line, N-Line S and Ultimate, which this is. Ultimate comes with the cool sunroof, which I really like. Sunroofs are great in my opinion. It starts at £34,995 and goes up to £43,000 for the Ultimate. Is there anything else at that price point which gives you as much technology, as much value? I'm not sure there is. Yes, you might be able to spend a bit more from a competitor to get a car which is slightly higher up in the range, but I think for £34,000, the combination of technology, range, and style is really, really good, and it hits the mark exactly right. Let's talk about the modes now. So we've got different drive modes. We have Eco, Normal, Sport, and Snow. Kind of ironic, in England it doesn't snow very often, but it's great to have that on an SUV. So if you do live in a climate where it snows, or like once in a while it does snow in the UK, then you can test that out, which you can actually see on one of my other reviews. It was snowing when I made the video. As for the difference between the modes, well, Sport changes the dials to be more aggressive and red, and Eco doesn't. Eco makes them sort of fluffy and cloudy and nice and relaxed, and then Normal is just normal. And in terms of how they handle the performance, if I put my foot down a tiny bit in Normal, it's far faster accelerating, but not as fast as if it's in Sport, and not as lazy as if it is in Eco. So there is a difference there. Obviously the efficiency of the car changes depending on what mode you use. I would suggest that most people would drive in Normal unless they want to overtake. Remember, in the top spec, this car has around 215 horsepower, which in a fast accelerating mode such as Sport is plenty good enough for overtaking in most situations. What about the batteries? There's 2 options: 48 kilowatt hours, which is good for 156 PS and 234 miles of range. With the larger 65 kilowatt hour battery, you can get 319 miles of range, and you have also 215 PS or horsepower. The truth is, cars with about 300 miles of WLTP range generally give us about 250, 260 miles of actual real world range. That's how it works. And if you go for the 290 mile WLTP range, you're probably going to get around 50, 60 miles less than it actually says on the tin, so to speak. That's just how electric cars are. So remember that when you're buying an electric car, doesn't matter what brand, you always get less than they say. However, I think this car, the higher end battery size, is a very, very good sweet spot. Is it for the lower one? I'm not so sure about that, but I still don't deny the fact that it's got great technology and great value, even at that lower price point. Let's talk about the suspension now. So what I like about this car is it has very relaxed suspension. It isn't a sporty car. It's not trying to be a sporty car. What it is a car which is very relaxed to drive, and you don't really feel the bumps when you're going over them. They're actually not very noticeable. Now, what I like about that is that if you like to not feel the potholes, then that's a very useful thing. However, for some people, they might prefer to feel where they are on the road. That's up to you. Personally, I prefer having a bit more hardness in my suspension, but it is up to personal preference. And if you're driving this car with a family, then the soft suppleness of the suspension will make it great for driving. Let's see how fast this Kona Electric can do 0 to 60. They say 7.8 seconds. Let's go. We got 218 horsepower, and 7.8 is what Hyundai say. Are we going to get there before 40, 50? 7.59. So we're faster than Hyundai says it can do it, thanks to the V-Box Performance Pro Touch, which you can get in my link down below. So check that out if you want to test it out. Very good from Hyundai, faster than they say. This car, the Hyundai Kona Electric, is a really impressive car. It looks like it's from the future. The light bars, which have the pixel design, which is very familiar to Hyundai, is there. So you recognize it. And Hyundai have got their own design now, their own design language, and you can see it on all of their cars, the Kona included. Whether you have the electric version, the hybrid, or the combustion normal version, air quotes, because electric cars are normal, it's still a fantastic car. for the price point and for what you get with it, the ride comfort, the design, the technology, it's very hard to say that there's anything better than it right now. Now, don't get me wrong, there are competitors and there are other cars. I'm sure in the comments people will say, what about this, what about that? You're right, there are other cars, but ultimately with any car, it comes down to personal preference. And I think this car is a fantastic, fantastic value electric SUV for a family. And then it adds the great looks that it has. Yes, in the Hyundai line itself, there are other options. If you want a hybrid, you could go for a Tucson, which is slightly larger. If you want to have a more sporty electric car or a more maybe outlandish design, then you've got the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 5N, which I recently reviewed. There are other options, and they're from other manufacturers like Kia and even Genesis. Genesis is basically another Korean company to look at. So there are lots of options here, but I do think that this has impressed me a lot. I think that it gives you exactly what you want, and you would never walk away unhappy from this car in terms of both its looks, its driving, and its technology. And I think that Hyundai are really on a roll right now with all of their cars, and I'm sure it's going to continue going forward. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a like and please subscribe to more on Tech in the Car. Thanks for watching.